Israel is the most divisive country in the world. When there are global occurrences such as wars, it is discussed. It is also discussed while the situation is peaceful. Despite its limited population and territory, it is home to a significant portion of human history and sacred sites of the world's three major monotheistic religions. It is one of the world's most potent and fast-progressing countries. It has made numerous scientific and technological achievements despite being at the center of a regional war. Today, I'll tell you about living in this country, Jewish rituals and traditions, and what you should avoid doing if you visit. Where to see the church is considered to be the location of Jesus Christ's tomb, and much more. Welcome back to another exciting video. Today's video is about it's time to open up about this life in Israel, what you shouldn't do, people, history, traditions, army. Before we start the video, please like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Israel is one of the world's youngest sovereign governments, yet its foundation is founded on one of the oldest documents, the ancient scriptures compiled in the Old Testament. Following the Arab-Israeli War that year, Israel declared its independence in 1948. Following the end of World War II, whose area had Muslims and Jews who were always at odds until the war's end in 1948. This is when the Nakba, or Palestinian Exodus, began, and both states have been at odds ever since. The state of Palestine currently has minimal international recognition and is located in two areas bordering Israel, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. It is the world's only Jewish state and one of the most prosperous countries for a variety of reasons. The Babylonian exile, the first crucial Jewish emigration, happened in 586 BC. Some Jews were deported into slavery after the Babylonians captured the kingdom of Judah. Jews have always been a minority in the countries where they have lived, which has given them extra motivation to succeed. They have a solid social network because they are a minority, which helps them to help each other succeed in their personal and professional life. They, on the other hand, are always ready for war due to external threats. And because they have fewer natural resources, they value education and human development more than countries like Japan, Taiwan, or Singapore. Finally, because their region is relatively limited, they have a high concentration of brilliant people, which facilitates innovation and intellectual stimulation. Israel is the only country in the world to have revived a long-dead language. Following the Jewish emigration, the inhabitants began to utilize other languages, with Hebrew remaining only for religious purposes. Hebrew began to be recovered with Jewish nationalism and Zionism, and is now the official language of the states. Aramaic, on the other hand, is on the verge of extinction and is spoken only in a few places in Syria. Both languages are written from top to bottom and right to left. Many familiar names such as Sarah, Mary, Anna, Michael, John, and Raphael have their origins in the Old Testament, which was written in Hebrew. The Israeli Defense Forces are known as Zahal. They have never lost a war. Despite its small population, it possesses one of the world's most powerful armies, outperforming countries with far larger populations such as Canada, Spain, Vietnam, Thailand, Mexico, and Argentina. Its army is one of the top 20 most powerful in the world, and it is the only one with fewer than 10 million people. The Israeli state is thought to have atomic bombs, with between 80 and 400 nuclear warheads, and the potential to use them with submarine-launched missiles and intermediate and intercontinental ballistic missiles. They also specialize in designing and manufacturing drones such as the Heron TP, Hermes 900 Tactical Heron, and Birdseye 650. If you visit Israel, you will witness people carrying firearms on the streets of Jerusalem or the beaches of Tel Aviv. Don't be concerned. Military duty is mandatory, and it is typical for Israeli men and women to go about their daily lives while carrying weapons and dressed in military garb. Men must serve for a minimum of 32 months, while women must serve for a minimum of 24 months. They can serve in a variety of units: mountaineering, underwater combat, the Occurrences unit, Shaytet 13, Sayeret Matkal, Skylark unit, and Nehalem unit are only a few of the units available. Shaytet 13 distinguishes out among Israeli special units, specializing in sabotage operations, maritime intelligence, rescues, boarding and land and sea incursions. The Skylark is another unit that uses drones, or uncrewed aerial vehicles, for reconnaissance, surveillance, rescue, search, and transport. There's also the Elite Morin unit, which has been involved in every conflict and operation since its inception in 1982. This unit's activities are classified, and Israel claims that they can find and kill targets 4 miles away. It is one of the most technologically sophisticated countries, with over 4,000 businesses in this field. Israel has 60 of the world's 500 most prominent technology companies, trailing only the United States and China. In addition, Israeli workers and businesses have contributed to the development of Apple hardware, as well as goods from Google, Intel, and Microsoft, among other significant enterprises. This is attributable to the state allocating a significant share of its resources to research, excellent Israeli education, and the competitiveness that distinguishes the country and its residents. It is the second most populous country in terms of university enrollment, trailing only Canada. Universities serve as teaching and research facilities, preparing students to conduct independent research and build entrepreneurship abilities. On the other side, education is highly valued culturally, and people encourage it in their children from an early age. There are a number of things that you should not do or know in Israel. Don't bring up politics. It is a complex topic that might lead to misunderstandings due to the history of Israel and the Jews and their constant disputes. It is also a good idea to be familiar with kosher foods, which are those permitted by Jewish law. Kosher animals have split hooves and do not crawl through the sand. Haired camel and pork are not permitted, nor are goods derived from them. Other requirements apply, such as Jews only eating kosher food produced by Jews, meat and dairy products cannot be mixed, and each kitchen equipment must be used to make a specific cuisine. Do not touch Orthodox Jews of the opposite sex, as Orthodox Jewish law prohibits contact with people of the opposite sex except for husband, wife, relatives, or children. Something very crucial is to avoid going out into nature in Israel. It is a combat zone, and there may be mines. Also, dress modestly and without revealing too much, as many areas are considered sacred. However, it is not suggested to bring religious materials or writings in Arabic that could make you a suspect. The Hebrew calendar is lunisolar. It is based on the moon's monthly orbit around the Earth and the Earth's annual orbit around the sun. It starts with Genesis, the first book of the Torah, and continues through the Old Testament. It is made up of an astronomical and mathematical procedure. The Gregorian year 2020 corresponds to the Hebrew year 5780. Yom Kippur, regarded as the day of repentance, forgiveness, and atonement, is the holiest day in Judaism. It occurs on the 10th day of Tishrei, the Jewish month. On this day, a 25-hour fast is conducted to signify atonement for the wrongs committed in the previous year. Many Israelis do not observe this Jewish practice, yet they do not drive, the streets are deserted, and stores and restaurants are closed. If you visit an Israeli eatery, give a tip. It is to be expected, given servers rely on gratuities rather than pay. If you are pleased with the service, it is usual to leave 15% of the total bill or more. And if you're not happy, at least 10% off. Jerusalem is Israel's formal capital, and it, like the rest of the country, is regarded as the Holy Land. During the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel took the eastern sector of Jerusalem and later declared it the eternal and indivisible capital of Israel. As a result of the annexation, the countries of the United Nations relocated their embassies to Tel Aviv, the country's financial center. By Donald Trump's directive in 2018, the embassy was relocated to Jerusalem. The three great world religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, all regard Jerusalem as a holy city. It is Islam's third holiest city, where Muslims believe the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven, and where early Muslims face when praying before turning to Mecca. If you visit Israel, keep in mind that the norms of politeness will differ depending on who you deal with. The majority of the population is Western, although there is also a Muslim population. Remember that unlike a Jew or a Christian, a Muslim considers the left hand to be dirty and is exclusively used for personal hygiene. The Jewish cemetery on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem is one of the oldest continually in use in the world. It has around 150,000 graves, some of which date back over 1,000 years. The Western Wall, also known as the Wailing Wall, is considered the holiest shrine in Judaism. It is located in Jerusalem and is thought to have been erected by Herod the Great in 19 BC. The location was formerly home to the First Jerusalem Temple, also known as Solomon's Temple, which was destroyed by the Babylonians, and the second, which the Romans demolished. Some people consider the phrase Wailing Wall to be insulting and prefer the designation Western Wall. Every year, it is estimated that Jews who come to pray leave about 9 million prayer letters to God or personal requests. Because of the amount, a rabbi gathers and burns the notes twice a year on the Mount of Olives. For all letters addressed to God that arrive in Jerusalem from across the world, Israel's Postal Service has a separate Letters to God department. Each year, over 1 million are opened and placed in the cracks of the Western Wall. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, also known as the Church of the Resurrection, is the holiest site in Christianity and is located in Jerusalem. It is thought to house the tomb where Jesus Christ was placed following his crucifixion. Although no one controls the basilica's main entrance, 2 Arab families have had the honor of opening and closing the building's door for generations: the Al-Qudiyya Judah family and the Muslim Nusayb family. Their descendants are the ones who now have the honor of protecting the door. The Aticule, a modest structure inside the Church of the Resurrection, is thought to house Jesus Christ's tomb. The Romans discovered the cave within the article, and the church was completed during Emperor Constantine's reign. The sacred rock belonging to the tomb, which Christian pilgrims have visited for centuries, was recently exposed, allowing the walls to be seen through a window. The Bible tells us Jesus was born in Bethlehem, which is now part of Palestinian territory, on December 6, 6.2 miles to the south of Jerusalem. The Church of the Nativity, which is open to the public, was built over the cave where Jesus is claimed to have been born. There is generally a considerable clue to descend into the cave, which is thought to be the birthplace. There are Jews of various origins in Israel. Ashkenazim are Jews from Germany, Central and Eastern Europe. The Sephardim are descendants of ancient Jews who were exiled from the Iberian Peninsula during the reign of the Catholic monarchs, and the Mizrahim are ancestors of Jews from the Middle East and North Africa. There are also African Jews, known as Black Israelites, who come from Ethiopia. Mea Shearim is the most ideologically distinct neighborhood in modern-day West Jerusalem. It is home to ultra-Orthodox Haredi Jews, whose black outfits can identify with matching headgear, bushy beards, and long, curly side locks known as eyes. The Jewish men's cap is known as a kippah. It is also constructed of fabric or wool. It serves as a continual reminder that God is always above the person. In comparison to other affluent countries, Israel's fertility rate is relatively high, with over 3 children per woman. Israeli policies, including rewards for mothers, contribute to this. The population's high religion also has an impact. Marriage and having children are cultural and religious conventions. Furthermore, highly Orthodox Haredi Jews have a high reproduction rate, with their women having 7 children on average. In Israel, the religious cultural norm of having several children is so entrenched that even older working women prefer to have them. As a result, Israel is one of the few developed countries with a rapidly growing populations, in contrast to countries experiencing significant birth rate difficulties such as Spain, Italy, Greece, Japan, or South Korea. The average monthly pay in Israel is slightly over 3,000 shekels, or over 12,000 Israeli shekels, which is significantly more than the global average. However, the expense of living is relatively expensive as well. The prevalent assumption that all Jews are wealthy is a fallacy that may have spread as a result of propaganda by specific organizations and governments. It is true that there are very affluent Jews, such as Sergey Brin, one of Google's founders, and Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook. In the United States, however, Jews are only approximately 4 to 5% wealthier than the typical American, with around 10% earning less. The lowest freshwater lake on the planet is found in Israel. The Sea of Galilee has a maximum depth of 157 feet and is located 695 feet below sea level. From Jerusalem, you can also explore the Dead Sea, the world's lowest saltwater lake, which is 1,427 feet below sea level. Hanukkah, also known as the Festival of Lights, is a Jewish holiday commemorating the dedication of the Second Temple of Jerusalem and the Maccabean Revolt. It lasts 8 days and begins in late November or early December, depending on the Hebrew lunisolar calendar. During the holiday, the 9-branched candelabrum or menorah, which appears on the country's emblem, is lit. During the Jewish festival of Hanukkah or the Festival of Lights, Israelis devour over 23 million sufganiyot, which are spherical donuts that are first cooked and then filled with jam or cream and topped with glazed sugar. With 280 museums and counting, Israel has the most museums per capita in the world. Every year, millions of people visit significant art, archaeology, and science institutions, including the Tel Aviv Museum of Art, the Tower of David in Jerusalem, and the Eilat Underwater Observatory. It is home to its own Stonehenge. The archaeological site is known as Gilgal Rephaim in Hebrew and Rujum el Hiri in Arabic. a series of concentric circles that ends in a number 4. The 5-meter-high mound consisted of around 42,000 basaltic stones dating back more than 5,000 years. The biggest ancient dog cemetery was unearthed at Ashkelon, with over 1,300 dog skeletons, predominantly Canine breed puppies, buried between the 5th and 3rd centuries BCE. Pesach, or Jewish Passover or Hebrew Passover, commemorates the Jews' liberation from slavery in Egypt. The holiday, which lasts 7 days and begins on the 14th of the Hebrew month of Nisan, restricts the ingestion of fermented grain-derived dishes known as chametz. Matzah, and unleavened bread, is traditionally eaten. Israelis celebrate the bar mitzvah, a ritual in which the kid publicly reads the sacred Jewish texts, the Torah, when they reach what is considered personal maturity. The age at which Israelis hold someone accountable for their acts is 13 years old for boys and 12 years old for girls. In Israel, every home must have a security chamber, known as a Merkav Mugan, that can survive chemical and biological weapon strikes. Following the 1991 Gulf War, when Iraqi Scud missiles targeted Israel, this was established. Despite its small population, this country has produced 8 Nobel laureates in science and 1 in literature. Furthermore, the country ranks first in the world in terms of per capita scientific publications. There is no civil marriage in Israel, yet the Israeli Ministry of Interior recognizes civil marriages performed outside the country's borders. Religious marriage is the sole recognized marriage, regardless of the faith practiced. In Israel, the New Year, or Rosh Hashanah, is observed in September or October, depending on the Hebrew month of Tishrei. The festival begins with the sound of the shofar, commemorating the date Elohim, or God, created the universe, the horn of a ram. Candles are burned and feasts are held at morning prayer. Paulin Wine is the oldest brand in Israel. The Palestine Wine and Trading Company, founded in 1898, was the first to produce it. This wine's various mixes are recognized by numerals that allude to various Israeli bus lines. Tel Aviv's so-called White City is a UNESCO World Heritage Site in commemoration of the city's over 4,000 Bauhaus or international-style buildings built throughout the 1930s and 1940s. Tel Aviv boasts the most Bauhaus buildings in the world. The Sabbath is the 7th day of the week and a sacred day in Israel, observed from Friday sunset to the emergence of 3 stars on Saturday night. On this day, no work should be done. Krav Maga, or contact combat, is the official fighting and self-defense system utilized by the Israeli Defense and Security Forces. It was created in the 1930s by Imai Lichtenfeld, a Czechoslovakian Jew. A biblical zoo in Jerusalem's Mall and neighborhood houses creatures referenced in the Hebrew Bible. It is also well known for its success in reproducing endangered species. Albert Einstein, the famed German scientist and scientific icon, was Jewish, and he was offered the presidency of Israel in 1952, but he declined. His point was that he needed more natural aptitude and experience to deal with people appropriately. Due to the Sabbath prohibition on cooking, slow cooking approaches exist to create a dinner the day before that remains warm. The Ashkenazi cholent and the Sephardic chaman or chaman are 2 examples. In Israel, the second largest bath facility in the entire Roman Empire was constructed. Spa enthusiasts can unwind in ancient style at Hamad Gator's 2,000-year-old complex. Matkat, which means rackets in Hebrew, is a popular paddle game in Israel that is comparable to beach tennis, which is sometimes referred to as the national beach sport of Israel. Freyer, which means fool, is the Israeli name for someone who is easily influenced. Israelis prefer to have the finest of everything, the cheapest price, the highest quality, and the quickest trip. There are 180 McDonald's across the country, but only 50 are kosher. Therefore, they are closed on the Sabbath and Jewish festivals. In October 1995, the world's first kosher McDonald's opened in Mevaseret, Zion. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content.